Emily Carter's hands trembled as she clutched the resignation letter. The paper already creased from being folded and unfolded a dozen times that morning. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the 32nd floor conference room, Chicago's skyline stretched endlessly, but she barely saw it. All she could see was the hospital room from last night, Maya's small hand in hers, the monitors beeping steadily, the doctor's careful words about experimental treatment and costs that made Emily's vision blur. $75,000. That's what they needed. $75,000 for a chance, not even a guarantee, just a chance, that her 6-year-old daughter might beat the rare form of leukemia that had turned their lives upside down 4 months ago. "Emily, you still with us?" She blinked. Realizing the marketing meeting had ended and her colleagues were filing out, James from graphic design gave her a concerned look as he passed. But Emily forced a smile and nodded. She'd gotten good at pretending everything was fine, even as her world crumbled. Her phone buzzed. A text from the hospital billing department, final notice, payment plan in arrears. "Please contact us immediately." Emily closed her eyes, pressing her palms against them hard enough to see stars. She'd tried everything. Negotiated payment plans, applied for assistance programs, started a fundraiser that had barely covered 2 weeks of treatment, picked up freelance work on top of her 60-hour weeks as senior marketing director at Brennan Industries. None of it was enough. Nothing was ever enough. The job offer from Mitchell Corp had come at 2 a.m. last night, while she sat in Maya's hospital room waiting for the fever to break. 40% more than her current salary, signing bonus of $20,000. Benefits that actually covered experimental treatments. It was the answer to her prayers. It was also the end of everything she'd built here over 3 years. The team she'd cultivated, the campaigns she'd launched, the respect she'd earned. And it meant leaving him. No, not him. Her boss, Nathan Brennan, CEO of Brennan Industries and the most infuriatingly brilliant, impossibly demanding, and completely unavailable man she'd ever met. Emily gathered her things, her resignation letter burning against her palm through the envelope. She'd scheduled this meeting for 4 p.m. After most people had left for the day, fewer witnesses to her inevitable breakdown. Nathan's assistant, Grace, looked up as Emily approached the executive suite. "Emily, he's expecting you. Go right in." Of course he was expecting her. Nathan Brennan expected everything, knew everything, controlled everything in his carefully ordered world. Emily wondered what it would be like to have that kind of power, that kind of certainty. She knocked once and entered without waiting for response. A privilege he'd granted his senior staff after she'd once stood in the hallway for 15 minutes, waiting for him to finish a call. Nathan sat behind his desk, reading something on his tablet, his dark hair slightly disheveled in a way that suggested he'd been running his hands through it. He did that when he was thinking hard about a problem. Emily had catalogued all his tells over 3 years of working closely with him. Small observations she had no business noticing. "Emily," he looked up, and those sharp grey eyes focused on her with an intensity that always made her breath catch. "Have a seat. I wanted to discuss the Peterson account." He stopped, really looking at her for the first time. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. I just need a few minutes of your time." "Emily?" His voice dropped, losing its professional edge. "I've known you for 3 years. You've presented to hostile boards, pitched impossible clients, and once told our largest investor his marketing strategy was aggressively mediocre. You don't get nervous, so what's wrong?" The concern in his voice nearly broke her. Emily clutched the envelope tighter, her knuckles white. "I'm resigning, effective immediately." The words fell like stones into still water. Nathan went completely still, his expression unreadable. "Immediately," he repeated slowly. "No 2 weeks' notice, no transition plan. That's not like you." "I know. I'm sorry. I've prepared documentation on all my current projects, and I can recommend—" "Why?" The single word stopped her cold. Emily had prepared for arguments about protocol, about professionalism, about all the projects that would suffer without proper handoff. She hadn't prepared for the quiet devastation in that one syllable. "I have an opportunity that I can't pass up," she said, the practiced words tasting like ash. "It's a significant increase in compensation and—" "Bullshit!" Emily's head snapped up. Nathan was standing now, his hands flat on the desk, leaning forward with an expression she'd never seen before. Not anger exactly, but something fiercer, more personal. You don't care about money, he continued, his voice low and certain. When I offered you the director position, you negotiated for better benefits for your team before you asked about your own salary, when Peterson wanted to triple your salary to poach you last year. You turned them down without even discussing it with me, so don't tell me this is about compensation. He moved around the desk, and Emily instinctively took a step back. Nathan stopped immediately, holding up his hands. I'm not trying to intimidate you, but Emily, in 3 years you've never lied to me. Don't start now, what's really going on? The envelope crumpled in her grip. Emily felt the careful control she'd maintained for months beginning to fracture. I need the money. That's the truth. They're offering 40% more plus a signing bonus, and I need it immediately. For what? That's personal. And this is personal, Nathan shot back. You're not just my employee, Emily, you're... He stopped, something flickering across his face. You're important to this company, to me. So if you're leaving, if you're this desperate, I need to know why. The genuine concern in his voice was too much. Emily felt tears burning behind her eyes, and she blinked hard. Refusing to cry in front of him, she'd promised herself she wouldn't cry. Maya's sick, she heard herself say, the words escaping before she could stop them. My daughter, she has leukemia. The treatment isn't working. There's an experimental program, but insurance won't cover it, and I can't... Her voice broke. I can't afford it. I've tried everything, and I can't afford to save my daughter. The tears came then, hot and unstoppable, and Emily pressed her hand over her mouth, trying to contain the sob that wanted to escape. She'd held it together for so long, through the diagnosis, the failed treatments, the endless hospital stays, the mounting bills, but standing here confessing her failure to the one person whose opinion mattered more than it should, everything collapsed. She didn't see Nathan move, but suddenly he was there, his hands on her shoulders, steady and warm. How much? His voice was quiet, controlled in a way that made her look up. His face was inches from hers, his grey eyes intense. How much do you need? 75,000, Emily whispered. For the treatment, plus another 30 for the bills I'm already behind on. But that's not... I'm not asking. You're not asking, I am. Nathan's hands tightened fractionally on her shoulders. How old is Maya? 6, she just turned 6 in August. Something shifted in Nathan's expression, a crack in his usual composure. My sister was 6 when she was diagnosed with leukemia, 23 years ago. She's a doctor now, specializing in pediatric oncology. Emily's breath caught in 3 years. Nathan had never mentioned a sister, never shared anything personal beyond the occasional comment about weekend plans or favorite restaurants. The treatment she needed wasn't covered by insurance either, Nathan continued. My parents went bankrupt paying for it, lost their house, their savings. Everything but she lived. And every day since then I've wondered what happens to the families who can't afford to lose everything. What happens to the kids whose parents have to choose between treatment and keeping a roof over their heads? He released her shoulders and stepped back, pulling his phone from his pocket. What hospital is Maya at? Children's Memorial, but Nathan, I can't accept... You're not accepting anything. I'm making a business decision. He was typing rapidly on his phone. You're a valuable asset to this company. Losing you would cost us significantly more than $100,000 in recruitment, training and lost productivity, so I'm investing in retention. That's not how retention bonuses work, Emily said weakly. It is now. Nathan looked up from his phone, and there was something fierce in his expression. I'm having my attorney draft an amendment to your contract. Immediate retention bonus of $105,000. Non-negotiable, you'll sign it, use it for Maya's treatment, and continue working here under the same terms as before. I can't. Can Maya afford for you to refuse? The question hit like a physical blow. Emily's vision blurred again. No. Then don't. Nathan's voice softened slightly. Let me help. Emily, please. The please undid her completely. Emily sank into the chair she'd been refusing, her hands covering her face as she cried, really cried, for the first time since the diagnosis. All the fear, the exhaustion, the desperate hope she'd been carrying alone for months poured out in broken sobs. She was dimly aware of Nathan moving, of the sound of water running. Then a glass was pressed into her hands and he was crouching in front of her chair, not touching but close enough that she could feel his presence. Drink, he said gently. Then tell me about Maya. When did she get sick? Emily took a shaky sip of water, trying to compose herself, but Nathan's steady gaze and quiet patience made it impossible to retreat behind professional walls. 4 months ago, she said, her voice rough. She'd been tired a lot, getting bruises easily. I thought it was just first grade wearing her out. Then she spiked a fever that wouldn't break. And the air doctor did blood work and... She stopped, swallowing hard. They admitted her immediately, stage 3 acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Christ, Nathan breathed. Why didn't you tell me? Because it wasn't your problem. I'm a single parent. Maya's my responsibility. I've been handling it. By working 60-hour weeks while your daughter fights cancer. There was no judgment in his voice, just quiet observation. Emily, you haven't taken a sick day in 4 months. You've missed exactly 1 meeting, the day she was diagnosed, and you were back the next morning. How are you even functioning? I don't have a choice, Emily said simply. She needs me to be strong. The medical bills need to be paid. Work is the one thing I can control, so I control it. Nathan was quiet for a long moment, studying her face with an expression she couldn't read. Who's watching Maya while you're here? My neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez. She's been incredible, staying with Maya during the day when she's home from the hospital. Bringing her to appointments, I don't know what I'd have done without her. And at night, I stay at the hospital most nights, sleep in the chair in her room, come straight here in the morning. Emily, Nathan's voice was rough. You can't sustain that. I don't have to sustain it much longer, Emily said, and heard the bleak acceptance in her own voice. Either the treatment works or... She couldn't finish the sentence. Nathan stood abruptly, returning to his desk. He pulled up something on his computer, typed rapidly, then picked up his phone. Grace, I need you to clear my schedule for the rest of the day. Yes, all of it. Reschedule the board meeting for tomorrow morning, thank you. He ended the call and looked at Emily. What time are visiting hours at Children's Memorial? What, Nathan? You don't have to... I'm not doing anything, he interrupted calmly. I'm simply adjusting my schedule now. What time? They're flexible for parents, but... Good. Nathan grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair. Then you and I are going to the hospital right now. I want to meet Maya, and I want to speak to her doctors about this experimental treatment. Emily stared at him. Why would you want to meet Maya? Nathan's expression softened in a way she'd never seen before. Because any kid brave enough to fight cancer, while her mother works herself to exhaustion to save her, sounds like someone I should know, and because... He paused, something vulnerable flickering across his face. Because I remember what it's like to watch someone you love in a hospital bed, feeling helpless. I couldn't do anything for my sister except hold her hand, but I can do something for Maya, so let me. The tears threatened again, but this time Emily managed to hold them back. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Nathan held out his hand, and Emily took it, letting him pull her to her feet. His grip was warm and steady, and for the first time in 4 months, she didn't feel quite so alone. Thank you, she said softly. Don't thank me yet, Nathan replied, but there was something gentle in his smile. Wait until you see how annoying I am about making sure you actually eat and sleep. Despite everything, Emily felt a surprised laugh escape. You're going to manage my self-care. Someone has to. Nathan grabbed his keys. And since you clearly can't be trusted to do it yourself, that someone is me. Now come on, let's go meet your daughter. As they walked toward the elevator, Emily realized she was still holding the crumpled resignation letter. She looked down at it, then at Nathan, who was texting someone rapidly while simultaneously holding the elevator door for her. Nathan. He looked up, one eyebrow raised in question. Emily held up the letter, then deliberately dropped it in the trash can beside the elevator. I'm not going anywhere. Something blazed in Nathan's eyes, fierce and possessive and entirely inappropriate for a boss looking at an employee. But Emily found she didn't care about appropriate anymore, not when he'd just offered to save her daughter's life without hesitation. Good, Nathan said quietly, because I'm not letting you go, not now, not ever. The words hung between them as the elevator doors closed, full of promise and possibility, and things neither of them was quite ready to name. But as Nathan's hand found hers again, their fingers intertwining naturally, Emily thought maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to fight this battle alone anymore. The Children's Memorial Hospital parking garage was nearly full, and Emily directed Nathan to the visitor section on the 3rd level. She'd made this drive so many times over the past 4 months that she could navigate it in her sleep, which was good, because most days she was operating on about 3 hours of rest. "She doesn't know how bad it is," Emily said quietly as they walked toward the elevator. "Maya, she knows she's sick, knows the medicine makes her tired and her hair fell out, but I haven't told her that the treatment isn't working, that we're running out of options." Nathan's hand was still holding hers, and he squeezed gently. "That's probably wise. Kids that age don't need to carry that weight. My sister knew," Nathan continued as they entered the elevator. "The doctors tried to keep it from her, but Sophie was too smart. She heard them talking to my parents about survival rates and treatment options. One night she asked me if she was going to die." His jaw tightened. She was 6 years old, and she was asking her 10-year-old brother if she was dying. Emily's throat constricted. "What did you tell her?" "I told her no, that I wouldn't let her." Nathan's smile was bitter, arrogant even for a 10-year-old, but she believed me and somehow she made it through. The elevator opened onto the 4th floor. Pediatric oncology. Emily had walked these halls so many times that the nurses greeted her by name as she passed. Several of them did double takes at the sight of Nathan beside her. This tall, intimidating man, in an expensive suit, looking distinctly out of place among the cheerful wall murals and bright colors designed to make sick children feel less afraid. "Maya's room is down here," Emily said, leading him past the nurse's station. "She's probably awake. They reduced her pain medication this morning, so she's been more alert." Room 447 had Maya's name on a decorative placard outside, decorated with stickers of unicorns and stars that Mrs. Rodriguez had brought. Emily paused outside the door, suddenly nervous about Nathan meeting her daughter. These two parts of her life, work and Maya, had been so carefully separated, letting them collide felt dangerous, like she was giving Nathan access to the most vulnerable part of herself. "Emily," Nathan's voice was gentle, "we don't have to do this if you're not ready. I can wait out here, talk to the doctors while you spend time with her." "No," Emily said, surprising herself with her certainty. "I want you to meet her. She's the most important thing in my life if you meet her. If she gets attached to you and then..." "Then what?" Nathan asked quietly. "I disappear, Emily. I told you I'm not letting you go. That includes Maya if I'm going to help. I'm all in, not just with money, but with showing up, being present, whatever you both need." The intensity in his voice made Emily's heart stutter. This was crossing a line they couldn't uncross, moving from professional to something far more personal, but looking at Nathan's steady gaze, the determination in his expression, Emily realized she wanted to cross that line. She was tired of being alone, tired of pretending she had everything under control. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." Emily pushed open the door. Maya was sitting up in bed, her bald head covered by a bright purple beanie that Mrs. Rodriguez had knitted. She was coloring in a Disney princess book, her small face scrunched in concentration as she tried to stay inside the lines. "Mama." Maya's face lit up when she saw Emily, and it was like the sun breaking through clouds. "You're early, Mrs. Rodriguez said you wouldn't be here until after dinner. I got out of work early today." "Baby?" Emily crossed to the bed and kissed Maya's forehead, checking her temperature by touch out of habit. "Normal, thank God. And I brought someone to meet you. Is that okay?" Maya's brown eyes, so much like Emily's own, shifted to Nathan, and she studied him with the frank curiosity of childhood. "Are you Mama's boss? She talks about you sometimes." Nathan's eyebrows rose as he looked at Emily, a hint of amusement in his expression. "Does she now? What does she say?" "That you're really smart but you work too much and forget to eat lunch," Maya said it matter-of-factly. "Mama says that's why she has to bring you protein bars, because otherwise you'd just drink coffee all day and get grumpy." Emily felt heat rise in her cheeks. "Maya..." "Your mama is absolutely right," Nathan interrupted, his voice warm with laughter as he moved closer to the bed. "I do work too much and forget to eat. It's a good thing she takes care of me. I'm Nathan. It's nice to meet you, Maya." He held out his hand formally and Maya giggled as she shook it. "You're supposed to bow when you meet a princess," she informed him seriously. "Mama says I'm a warrior princess because I'm fighting the bad cells in my blood." "A warrior princess," Nathan repeated. And to Emily's shock, he actually executed a small bow. My apologies, Your Highness. I should have recognized royalty immediately. Maya's delighted laughter filled the room, and Emily felt something crack open in her chest. When was the last time her daughter had laughed like that? Really laughed. Not the tired half-smile she'd been giving lately. I like him, Maya announced to Emily. He's funny. Can he stay? For a little while, Emily said, settling into the chair beside Maya's bed that had become her second home. But Mr. Brennan is very busy. Nathan, he corrected, pulling up a second chair. And I'm not busy at all right now, in fact. I was hoping you could tell me about your coloring book. I'm terrible at staying inside the lines. Any tips? For the next hour, Emily watched in amazement as Nathan Brennan, CEO of a multi-million-dollar company known for his ruthless business acumen and intimidating presence, sat beside her daughter's hospital bed and colored pictures of Disney princesses. He asked Maya about her favorite characters, her opinions on which prince was best. She had strong feelings about Prince Eric versus Prince Philip, and whether dragons should be friendly or scary. Friendly, obviously, because all animals could be nice if you were nice to them. Maya, who had been quiet and withdrawn for weeks, bloomed under Nathan's attention. She showed him her collection of stuffed animals that various nurses had brought her, demonstrated the IV pole she'd decorated with stickers, and explained in great detail the plot of the cartoon she'd been watching that morning. And then the princess discovers she has ice powers, Maya was saying, her hands gesturing animatedly. And everyone is scared of her, but really she's just scared of herself because she doesn't want to hurt anyone. But then her sister helps her realize that love is stronger than fear, and... She paused, her expression growing serious. Mama says that's like my medicine. Sometimes it makes me feel bad, but it's actually fighting to make me better. Emily's vision blurred. She'd used that metaphor weeks ago, trying to help Maya understand why the chemotherapy made her so sick. She hadn't realized her daughter had been thinking about it so deeply. Your mama is very wise, Nathan said quietly. And she's right. Sometimes the things that help us get better are hard, but that doesn't mean they're not worth it. Maya nodded, then yawned hugely. I'm tired now. The medicine makes me sleepy a lot. Then you should rest, Emily said, standing to adjust Maya's pillows. Close your eyes, baby. I'll be right here. Will Nathan be here too? Maya's eyes were already drooping. Emily looked at Nathan, who nodded without hesitation. I'll be here, he said softly. Good, Maya mumbled, her hand reaching out to pat Nathan's arm. You're nice. I'm glad you're Mama's boss. Maybe you can make sure she eats lunch too. Within minutes, Maya was asleep, her breathing deep and even. Emily stood beside the bed, smoothing the purple beanie that had slipped slightly, her hand lingering on her daughter's too pale cheek. She's beautiful, Nathan said quietly from behind her. She has your eyes and your stubbornness, I suspect. Emily managed a watery laugh. She's the strongest person I know. She never complains, never asks why this is happening to her, just keeps fighting day after day. She gets that from you. Emily turned to find Nathan standing closer than she'd realized, his expression serious. I'm not strong. I'm terrified every single day. What if the treatment doesn't work? What if I lose her? What if... Being terrified and being strong aren't mutually exclusive, Nathan interrupted gently. You're allowed to be scared, Emily. You're allowed to not have all the answers. That's what asking for help is for. I've never been good at asking for help, now I've noticed. Nathan's smile was slight. You'd rather work yourself into exhaustion than admit you need support. It's one of your more frustrating qualities. I have frustrating qualities, Emily asked, oddly hurt by the assessment. Several, Nathan confirmed. You're stubborn to the point of self-destruction. You take on more work than any human should reasonably handle. You never delegate because you don't trust anyone else to meet your standards. You bring me protein bars because you think I can't take care of myself. But you survive on coffee and whatever cafeteria food you can grab between meetings. His voice softened. And you've been dealing with the worst crisis of your life completely alone, rather than accepting help from people who care about you. People who... Emily stopped, her heart hammering. What people? Nathan stepped closer, and Emily found herself backed against the wall beside Maya's bed. He wasn't touching her, but she could feel the heat of him, the intensity of his focus. Me, Emily, I care about you. I have for a long time. His grey eyes held hers. I've tried to keep it professional, tried to maintain appropriate boundaries, But watching you walk into my office today, ready to leave, ready to disappear from my life." He stopped, his jaw clenching. "I can't do appropriate anymore. Not when it comes to you." Emily's breath caught. "Nathan, you're my boss. This is complicated, I know." Nathan's hand came up, hovering near her face but not quite touching. "Tell me to stop. Tell me this crosses too many lines and I'll step back. I'll still help with Maya's treatment, still make sure you have everything you need, but I'll keep my distance. Just say the word." Emily should say it, should establish boundaries, maintain professionalism, protect herself from the inevitable complications. But looking at Nathan's face, seeing the same want and fear and desperate hope she felt reflected in his eyes, she couldn't make the words come. "I don't want you to stop," she whispered instead. Nathan's hand finally made contact, his palm cupping her cheek with a gentleness that made her eyes sting. "Then I won't, but Emily, I need you to understand. This isn't just about attraction. This isn't some crisis-driven impulse. I've been half in love with you since the day you told our biggest investor his marketing strategy was garbage." Emily's laugh was shaky. "That's a terrible basis for falling in love. Maybe. But watching you build campaigns that changed our entire trajectory, manage a team that would follow you anywhere, and somehow maintain your humanity in an industry that usually destroys it." Nathan's thumb brushed across her cheekbone. "That's when I knew. You're extraordinary, Emily Carter, and I'm tired of pretending I don't see it." A throat cleared from the doorway and they sprang apart like guilty teenagers. Dr. Ramesh stood there, her dark eyes kind, but knowing as she looked between them. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said. "Emily, I wanted to discuss Maya's latest test results. Do you have a moment?" Emily's heart plummeted. Test results. She'd been so caught up in Nathan, in the impossible relief of not being alone, that she'd almost forgotten why they were here. "Of course," she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "Nathan, maybe you should—" "I'd like to stay," Nathan said firmly. "If that's all right with you." Emily looked at him. This man who'd walked into her crisis without hesitation, who'd colored Disney princesses with her daughter, who'd just confessed feelings that should terrify her, but instead felt like coming home. "Stay," she said softly. Dr. Ramesh pulled up Maya's chart on the tablet she carried. "The latest blood work shows the leukemia is progressing despite the current treatment protocol. Her white blood cell count is elevated, and we're seeing increased blasts in her bone marrow." She looked at Emily with compassion. "I know we discussed this possibility, but I wanted to confirm, without intervention, we're looking at a very narrow window." "How narrow?" Emily's voice sounded distant to her own ears. 3 to 6 months, maybe less." The world tilted. Emily felt Nathan's hand on her back, steady and grounding, the only thing keeping her upright. "But there are options," Dr. Ramesh continued quickly. "The experimental CAR T-cell therapy trial I mentioned, it's shown remarkable results in similar cases. The challenge is cost. Insurance won't cover it because it's still in trials. And the price tag is—" "75,000, Emily finished numbly. "You told me. Actually, it's been revised. The trial expanded last week. And with the new funding, the cost is now 50,000 for participants. Still significant, but—" "She'll do it," Nathan interrupted. Emily turned to stare at him, but he was focused on Dr. Ramesh. "Whatever Maya needs, whatever it costs, she'll have it. When can we start?" Dr. Ramesh's eyebrows rose. "Are you—" "I'm sure," Nathan said firmly. "Emily, you said you needed 105,000. That covers the treatment and the outstanding bills, correct?" Emily could only nod, too overwhelmed to speak. "Then it's settled." Nathan turned to Dr. Ramesh. "What's the next step?" "For the next 20 minutes. Dr. Ramesh explained the treatment protocol, the timeline, the potential side effects and success rates. Nathan listened intently, asking pointed questions about logistics and support systems, while Emily sat in a daze, trying to process that this was actually happening. Her daughter had a chance, a real chance. After Dr. Ramesh left to begin the intake paperwork, Emily and Nathan stood in silence watching Maya sleep. "I don't know how to thank you," Emily finally said, "for all of this, for believing in her, for—" Her voice broke. "For seeing me." Nathan turned to her, his expression fierce. "You don't have to thank me. This is what people do when they—" He stopped, something vulnerable flickering across his face. "When they care about each other, They show up. They help. They don't keep score. I'm going to find a way to pay you back, Emily insisted. Every penny. I don't know how long it'll take, but... Emily? Nathan's hands framed her face, forcing her to look at him. I don't want your money. I want you to let me be part of this, part of Maya's recovery, part of your life. I want... He stopped, his forehead resting against hers. I want everything you're willing to give me, but I'll take whatever you can offer and be grateful for it. Emily's hands came up to grip his wrists, anchoring herself to him. I'm scared, she whispered, of this, of wanting something for myself when Maya needs everything, of letting you in, and then... Then what? I leave. Nathan pulled back enough to meet her eyes. Emily, I told you I'm all in. I don't do things halfway, and I sure as hell don't abandon people I care about when things get hard. So get used to me being here, annoying you about eating, making sure you sleep, meeting you at the hospital after work, whatever you need. I'm here. What about work? The company? If people find out, then they find out, Nathan said simply. I'll deal with any fallout. Your job is secure regardless. We'll handle the optics, the hard implications, all of it. But I'm not hiding this, Emily. I'm not hiding you. Emily felt tears sliding down her cheeks, but for the first time in months, they weren't tears of despair. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Nathan kissed her forehead, soft and reverent, and Emily let herself lean into him, let herself accept the support she'd been refusing for so long. Behind them, Maya stirred slightly in her sleep, and Emily thought about Dr. Ramesh's words, 3 to 6 months without treatment. But with it, with this experimental therapy that Nathan was making possible, Maya had a chance, they had a chance. All of them 3 months later, Emily sat in the same chair beside Maya's hospital bed. But everything had changed. The experimental CAR T-cell therapy had been brutal. 2 weeks of preparation, harvesting Maya's T-cells and reprogramming them to attack the cancer. Then the infusion, followed by days of fever and confusion as Maya's modified immune system waged war inside her small body. Emily had watched her daughter suffer through cytokine release syndrome, had held her hand through seizures and hallucinations, had wondered if the cure would kill her before the disease could. But Maya had survived, more than survived. She'd responded better than anyone had dared hope. Her latest scans are remarkable, Doctor. Ramesh had said yesterday, her professional composure cracking into a genuine smile. No detectable cancer cells, complete molecular remission, Emily. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I've never seen such a dramatic response. Now, watching Maya sleep peacefully, real sleep, not the exhausted collapse of a body-fighting disease, Emily finally let herself believe it might actually be over. Are you doing it again? Emily looked up to find Nathan in the doorway, carrying 2 cups of coffee and a bag from the bakery down the street. He'd made this trip every morning for the past 3 months, stopping by before work to check on Maya and make sure Emily had actually eaten breakfast. Doing what? Emily asked, accepting the coffee gratefully. Watching her like you're afraid she'll disappear if you look away. Nathan settled into the chair beside her that had become his over the past months. She's okay, Emily. The doctors confirmed it. Maya's in remission. I know. Emily took a sip of coffee, letting the warmth ground her. I just keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for them to find something they missed, or for the cancer to come back, or... Hey! Nathan's hand covered hers. You're allowed to feel relief. You're allowed to believe the good news. Emily turned her hand over, lacing their fingers together. It had become natural over the past months, this casual intimacy. Nathan showing up at the hospital after work, sitting with Maya during treatments while Emily handled conference calls from the family waiting room, reading bedtime stories in funny voices that made Maya giggle, even when she felt terrible. The office had noticed, of course. Emily returning to work after a week of emergency leave, Nathan conspicuously present at every meeting involving her projects. The retention bonus that appeared in her account had been impossible to hide from HR. Though Nathan's attorney had structured it cleverly enough to withstand scrutiny, there had been whispers, speculation, a few uncomfortable meetings with HR about appropriate workplace relationships, but Nathan had been characteristically direct, announcing to the senior staff that yes, he and Emily were involved, and anyone with concerns could bring them directly to him. The whispers had died down quickly after that. Mama! Maya's voice was sleepy but stronger than it had been in months. Is it morning already? Almost, baby. Emily set down her coffee and moved to the bed, checking Maya's forehead automatically. Cool, no fever. How do you feel? Hungry, Maya announced, and Emily felt her heart swell. Appetite returning was one of the best signs. Can I have pancakes, real ones, not hospital ones? I think that can be arranged, Nathan said, pulling out his phone. What kind? Chocolate chip, blueberry? Both. Maya's eyes lit up. With extra syrup and whipped cream and… She paused, her expression turning serious. Nathan, are you my mama's boyfriend now? Emily choked on her coffee. Nathan's eyebrows rose, though she could see amusement dancing in his eyes. Well, he said carefully, that depends on whether your mama wants me to be. Of course she does, Maya said with the confidence of childhood. She smiles different when you're here. Happy smile instead of brave smile. And you bring her coffee every morning and make sure she eats just like she does for you at work. Maya, Emily started, embarrassed. So if you're going to be her boyfriend, you should probably ask her properly, Maya continued, completely ignoring her mother. Like the princes do in the movies with flowers and everything. Nathan's smile widened. You make an excellent point, Your Highness. I apologize for the oversight. He stood, executed that same formal bow that had made Maya laugh months ago, then turned to Emily with exaggerated seriousness. Emily Carter, would you do me the honor of being my girlfriend? I can't promise flowers every day, but I can promise coffee, terrible jokes, and an unhealthy obsession with making sure you actually sleep. Maya clapped her hands together. Say yes, Mama. He's nice and he's funny, and he colored all those princess pictures with me, even though he's not very good at staying in the lines. Emily looked between her daughter and Nathan. Her heart so full it ached. You two are ganging up on me. Absolutely, Nathan confirmed. Is it working? Emily stood, moving close enough to Nathan that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. The past 3 months had been the hardest of her life, but they'd also revealed something she hadn't expected. She didn't have to be strong alone. Nathan had shown up day after day, not to rescue her, but to stand beside her, to hold her when she cried, to celebrate the small victories, to simply be present in the terror and uncertainty. Yes, she said softly, it's working, and yes, I'll be your girlfriend. As long as you understand that comes with a 6-year-old chaperone who has very strong opinions about appropriate boyfriend behavior. I can live with that, Nathan said, and kissed her gently, mindful of Maya, watching with rapt attention. Ew, Maya said, but she was giggling. You're supposed to wait until she's a princess before you kiss her. That's how it works in all the movies. Your mama's already a princess, Nathan replied, not taking his eyes off Emily. She just doesn't wear a crown. 2 weeks later, Maya was discharged from the hospital with strict instructions for follow-up care and regular monitoring. Emily stood in the hospital room, the space that had been their second home for 4 months, and felt oddly emotional about leaving. It's okay to feel weird about it, Nathan said quietly, helping pack Maya's stuffed animals into boxes. This place saved her life. It's natural to have complicated feelings. I just never thought we'd actually get to leave, Emily admitted. I mean, I hoped, but hoping and believing are different things. Maya was down the hall saying goodbye to her favorite nurses. Escorted by Mrs. Rodriguez, who'd become like family over the months, it gave Emily and Nathan a rare moment alone. I have something I wanted to discuss, Nathan said, setting down the box he'd been packing, about work and living arrangements. Emily's stomach tightened. Okay. You've been splitting time between the hospital, work and your apartment for months. Maya's going to need stability during recovery, a space that's fully hers, not a hospital room. Nathan paused. I want you both to move in with me. Emily stared at him. Nathan, before you say no, hear me out. Nathan moved closer, his expression earnest. My house has 4 bedrooms. Maya could have her own room, properly set up for a kid with space for all her things. There's a yard where she could play once she's strong enough. It's 15 minutes from the hospital instead of 45, so follow-up appointments would be easier. That's very practical, Emily said slowly. But more importantly, Nathan interrupted, I love you, both of you, and I want to wake up every morning knowing you're both safe and cared for. I want to make Maya breakfast and help with her homework and be there for the hard days and the good days. I want… He stopped, vulnerability clear on his face. I want to be a family if you'll let me. Emily's vision blurred. You love me. Of course I love you, Nathan said like it was obvious. I've been in love with you since you told me my presentation on market trends was aggressively boring, and then proceeded to show me exactly how it should be done. You're brilliant and stubborn, and you care about people in a way that makes everyone around you want to be better. How could I not love you? I'm a package deal, Emily warned. Maya comes first, always. I know, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Nathan took her hands. I'm not asking you to marry me, not yet. I know it's too soon, and Maya needs stability, not more upheaval, but I am asking you to let me be part of your lives in a real, permanent way, to stop keeping me at arm's length because you're afraid of needing someone. Emily thought about the past 3 months. Nathan holding her while she cried after a particularly brutal treatment, reading research papers about CAR-T therapy at 2 a.m. so he could understand what Maya was going through, bringing Maya's favorite books to the hospital, learning which nurses were on which shifts, memorizing the names of all Maya's stuffed animals. He'd already become part of their family. She'd just been too scared to acknowledge it. I love you too, Emily said, and watched Nathan's face transform. I think I've loved you for a while, but I was terrified of admitting it, of giving you the power to hurt us if things went wrong. Things might go wrong, Nathan said honestly. We might fight. We'll definitely annoy each other. Maya might decide she hates me during her teenage years. His smile was gentle. But I'm not going anywhere, Emily. I don't run when things get hard. So yes, you're giving me the power to hurt you, but you're also giving me the privilege of loving you, and I promise I'll take that seriously. Emily kissed him then, pouring months of fear and hope and desperate relief into it. When they pulled apart, Nathan was smiling. Is that a yes to moving in? It's a yes to trying, Emily amended, to seeing how it works, and if Maya's comfortable with it. I'm very comfortable with it, Maya's voice came from the doorway, where she stood with Mrs. Rodriguez. Does Nathan's house have a yard? Can I get a dog? Mama always said no dog in the apartment, but if there's a yard. One thing at a time, Emily laughed. But she was crying too, overwhelmed by the sudden shift from survival mode to actual future planning. Mrs. Rodriguez was dabbing at her own eyes. I told you, she said to Emily in Spanish. I told you things would work out. You just had to have faith. You were right, Emily replied, also in Spanish, hugging the woman who'd been their lifeline through the worst months. Thank you for everything. 6 months later, Emily stood in Nathan's kitchen, their kitchen now, watching through the window as Nathan pushed Maya on the tire swing he'd installed in the backyard. Maya's hair was growing back, soft brown fuzz that she complained made her look like a baby bird. She'd gained weight, her cheeks filling out, her energy returning in bursts that left Emily exhausted trying to keep up. The latest scans had been clear. Dr. Ramesh was cautiously optimistic about long-term remission. Maya would need monitoring for years, but every month that passed without relapse improved her odds. You're doing it again, a voice said behind her. Emily turned to find Nathan's sister Sophie in the doorway, her doctor's coat exchanged for casual jeans and a sweater. She'd become a regular presence since they'd moved in, offering medical perspective when Emily spiraled into worry and regaling Maya with stories of her own cancer treatment that always ended with, and now I'm perfectly fine, see? Doing what? Watching them like you can't quite believe it's real. Sophie moved to stand beside her at the window. It's real, Emily. Maya's in remission. You got your miracle. I'm terrified of losing it, Emily admitted. Every time she gets tired, every time she doesn't finish her meal, I panic that it's coming back. That's normal, Sophie said gently. That hypervigilance doesn't just disappear, but you can't live your whole life waiting for the other shoe to drop. Sometimes you just have to trust that you get to keep the good thing. Outside, Maya's laughter rang out as Nathan spun her in circles, both of them dizzy and happy. Emily felt her throat tighten. He's good with her, Sophie observed. Better than I expected, honestly. Nathan was always so focused on work. On building the company, I worried he'd forgotten how to just be present with people. Maya brings that out in him, Emily said. The part that's not the CEO, just Nathan. He taught her to play chess last week. She's terrible at it, but he's so patient, letting her take back moves and explaining strategy. He loves you both, Sophie said simply. I've never seen my brother like this. Lighter, happier, like he finally figured out what he was working so hard for. That evening, after Maya was asleep in her purple-themed bedroom, complete with the unicorn bedding Nathan had let her pick out. Emily and Nathan sat on the back porch, sharing a bottle of wine and watching fireflies dance across the yard. "I got a call from Mitchell Corp today," Emily said casually. "The job offer I almost took, they wanted to know if I'd reconsider." She felt Nathan tense beside her. And I told them I was very happy where I was." Emily smiled at his obvious relief. "Though I did negotiate a significant raise with HR. Apparently retaining top talent requires competitive compensation." "You negotiated your own raise?" Nathan's laugh was surprised and proud. "Without telling me." "I figured it was time to stop letting you solve all my problems," Emily said. "Besides, we're supposed to maintain professional boundaries at work. Remember, that was HR's big rule." "Professional boundaries," Nathan repeated, pulling her closer. "Is that why you called me Mr. Brennan in front of the whole senior staff yesterday?" "I was being professional." "You were being deliberately provocative," Nathan corrected, but he was smiling. "You know exactly what that does to me," Emily laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. "Poor CEO suffering through appropriate workplace conduct. The suffering is real," Nathan said solemnly. "I had to sit through a 2-hour budget meeting thinking about kissing you. It was very distracting." "Good," Emily kissed him, slow and thorough. "You deserve to be distracted. You work too much?" "Someone wise once told me that," Nathan murmured against her lips, "right before she brought me a protein bar and told me I was being ridiculous." "You were being ridiculous," Emily confirmed. "You still are sometimes, but you're my ridiculous workaholic now." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the night sounds of the neighborhood. Emily thought about the resignation letter she'd crumpled 6 months ago, the moment her life could have gone in a completely different direction. "Thank you," she said softly, "for not letting me leave, for fighting for us before I even knew there was an us to fight for." Nathan's arm tightened around her. "Thank you for letting me in, for trusting me with the most important parts of your life, for letting me love Maya, for—" His voice roughened. "For choosing me. Always," Emily promised. "Even when you're being impossible and refusing to delegate and working yourself into exhaustion, even then, especially then. Someone has to bring you protein bars." Nathan's laugh rumbled through his chest. "I love you, Emily Carter." "I love you too," Emily replied, and meant it with every fiber of her being. Inside, Maya called out sleepily, asking for water. Nathan started to get up, but Emily stopped him. "I'll go. You stay here, enjoy the quiet." "There is no quiet," Nathan said, but he was smiling. "Not anymore, and I wouldn't want there to be." Emily kissed him once more, then went inside to take care of her daughter, their daughter really, in all the ways that mattered, because family wasn't just about blood. It was about showing up day after day. It was about holding on when things got hard and celebrating when they got better. It was about love in all its messy, complicated, beautiful forms, and as Emily tucked Maya back in, kissing her forehead and promising pancakes in the morning, she thought about how close she'd come to walking away from all of this. How her resignation letter had been the thing that finally broke down the walls she'd built. Sometimes, she realized, the worst moments led to the best outcomes. Sometimes you had to almost lose everything to realize what you'd been too scared to reach for. And sometimes the man you'd been keeping at professional distance turned out to be exactly what you and your daughter needed all along. "Mama," Maya mumbled, half asleep, "is Nathan going to be my dad now?" Emily's heart stuttered. "Would you like that baby?" "Yeah," Maya said, her voice drowsy but certain. "He's good at being a dad. He makes you happy, and he promised to teach me how to ride a bike when I'm stronger." "Then maybe someday," Emily said softly, "when we're all ready." But looking at the joy on Maya's face, at the life they'd built from crisis and fear, Emily thought maybe they were already ready. Maybe they already were a family. They just needed to make it official.